for daily Ask Reddit. r/Ask Reddit. Teachers of Reddit, besides violence or threats of it, what's the scariest thing you've seen a student do? If you like the video, drop a like and subscribe so you never miss a video. Repeatedly punch a cinder block wall until his knuckles started bleeding. Wound up with multiple broken bones in his hand. Had to wear a cast for a couple of months. Scariest thing I heard a student say, other than the usual threats of violence, was a 15-year-old girl who said she was going to duck every guy she could until she got pregnant. The boy who repeatedly punched a cinder block, did his name happen to be Kyle? No. Sorry to disappoint. A 15-year-old student, on the first day of summer term, poured a bottle of white spirit over himself, another 2 bottles over his school blazer, set fire to the jacket, and put it on. Sadly, the student died of shock and the school was closed for the rest of the week. The fact that he put the jacket on after he had lit it was the scariest thing about the whole tragic episode. Duck. Was there any reason why? Yes. Partly worries about exam results and partly bullying. He left 3 letters for pupils in the school. 2 for his closest friends, and 1 for a boy in his year group who had bullied him. Everyone questioned whether they could have done more to help him, but now that time has healed a lot of our emotional wounds. I recall, at the end of the previous term, having a lengthy conversation with the boy on the veranda of the cricket pavilion, and he seemed very level-headed with no obvious signs of depression. Nobody could, realistically, have foreseen what he had planned to do during the holidays. Had a very unusual student who just seemed to be out of it. Not on drugs or anything, but just not altogether there. Anyway, he was doing really poorly in the class and hung out afterwards to see if there was any way he could pass the course. I explained, gently, that it wasn't going to happen, as we had 1 assignment left and he currently had a sub 20% average. He smiled, all with a 1,000-yard stare, and said, "Thank you," and left. The classroom had windows overlooking the quad area. I watched him walk down the sidewalk for a few yards and then just unleash a massive duck into the sky, complete with arms spread out. Then he started to kick the shite out of his book bag. I hightailed it out of there. Once had an adult student I was tutoring to help with his writing skills. As these things go, I encouraged him to respond to a series of prompts that could be free writing, but I made the mistake of calling it a journal, which, for some students, means they write down anything that comes to mind. He insisted that I read his journal, quite forcefully, and I said I would take it home and give him feedback later that week when we met again. Each entry talked about how he loved to cut out pictures of porn and paste to his walls. At night, they would talk to him. I later found out he was an offender, not a teacher at the time, but in college. One student got a bad grade on an assignment and ran out of the building into a tiny backyard area. He took out a gigantic knife and just started stabbing the ground over and over again. I watched from the 2nd floor patio as students gathered in a circle around him to watch. I never saw him again. I saw 2 first graders try to play pets by having one tie their scarf around the other's neck and use it like a leash to drag the other kid around. Me plus another adult had to run over because the girl with the scarf around her neck was starting to turn blue. That's the scariest part about working with little kids. They keep almost killing themselves or their peers and they never understand just how close to death they are. Damn, this actually happened at my school once. Hit a bit too close to home. I didn't see it, but a girl stole razor blades during science class. Another girl saw it, but as they were friends she didn't tell the teacher. She tried to commit suicide a week later with those razor blades. The other girl who saw her steal was devastated. Nobody suspected she was suicidal. Not a teacher, but when I was in high school I had a history teacher who was super cool, but she was really young as she was a recent college grad. I think she was like 24 over 25. She was really attractive too. She would always come in like an hour or 2 early to get paperwork and grading done. Once some of the students figured this out, there were multiple times that boys would stand outside her doorway and chuff to her. They had to start having security in her hallway. Worked in a middle school, grade 6 to 8. There was a female teacher, 20s, definitely attractive. Apparently, she had one of her students write in her yearbook at the end of the year, "I want to duck you." Worked with elementary school age kids for years. The scariest ones aren't the kids actually being violent or threatening. It's the few I came across that had honest sociopathic tendencies and were smart enough to hide their actions and put on a good face. The ones I'm thinking of enjoying hurting others and getting away with it. But that's not the scary part really. Kids are still developing and they aren't good at being deceitful. It's the ones who you see learning how to be better liars and better at hiding their cruelty. The ones you see getting better at faking empathy. You get to see that lovely little horrible development and can't stop it, no matter what approach. Some people just simply don't have that core kernel of decency even the brattiest kid still possesses. At the end of the day they simply don't care about anyone else, and you can't change that. I guess those kids didn't really scare me, but what they will inevitably become does.